Hi guys, welcome back. Pete the Wargamer here, once again to talk about contrast paints. This time around, I've been experimenting with some of the flesh tones available in the new range. I will be sharing with you some of the things that I've found with using them. So let's begin with basic one thick coat to give us a baseline. I'm using a Khorne Blood Reaver here, as they have a lot of exposed flesh to demonstrate on. I've chosen to prime the model with Wraithbone as it results in a slightly warmer colour tone, perfect for representing skin. I'm using some Guilliman flesh here, straight from the pot, and applying it over the entire area of exposed flesh. Once dried, the result is a respectable skin tone. Nothing too fancy, but a quick way of getting your skin painted with some surface colour and recessed shading. Ideal for the beginner or speed painter. However, we can easily improve this by mixing in some contrast medium with our Guilliman flesh to create a less intense colour. I created a 50-50 mixture of medium and paint and applied it over another Blood Reaver. The result here was a much more subtle and didn't have the same tide marks as before. Now that we have a slightly lighter skin tone, we can use some of the darker Fire Slayer flesh to boost the shadows a little. This time I used the paint straight from the pot, but this time targeted directly into the recesses, much like a targeted wash. Much like a wash also, it boosted the shading, enhanced the details, but left the surfaces themselves alone. I then used some Volupus Purple directly applied to some of the other markings on the model. Again, the contrast helped to create a fairly decent and quick effect. So at this point, the result is better than the one thick coat approach, and didn't take too much longer to achieve either. I could probably take it a little further with some highlights which would really finish things off, but for a decent tabletop standard, it looks okay. My next test was to see how contrast could be used for darker skin tones. Once again, I'm using a Wraithbone primed Blood Reaver for this. Now normally when painting darker tones, I would start off with a reddish brown as a base coat and work my way up to the lighter colours. With contrast though, you approach them much like watercolours, starting light and darkening down as you go. So my first step is to apply some Dark Oath skin, thinned in a 50-50 mix of paint to contrast medium and applied over the flesh areas. I left this to dry before applying another thin layer of Dark Oath skin over the top. This created the lightest parts of the flesh. To further darken it down, I then took some Cygor Brown mixed with some contrast medium and applied this specifically to the areas of shadow, such as beneath the arms and into the recesses. The darker Cygor Brown created a dark skin tone that we're looking for with the lighter tone created by the Dark Oath skin, serving as the areas where the light is hitting. You can go as dark as you want with the Cygor Brown until you're happy with the tone. So now that I've tried out a few different quick techniques, I wanted to try putting them together to create something a little more advanced. So with yet another Wraithbone primed Blood Reaver, I started off with a contrast medium thin base coat of Guilliman flesh. Then, using some Blood Angels Red thinned in the same way as before, I used some targeted washes around the facial features. This subtle red hue helped to not only darken down the recesses, but also add some variation to the skin tone. Very rarely is skin just shades of one colour, so this red helps to improve the realism somewhat. I also used some less diluted Blood Angels Red to paint the tongue and the inside of the mouth. After allowing this to dry, I then mixed some contrast medium in with some Griff Charger Grey and applied this over the Blood Reaver's bald head. Once dried, this created the appearance of stubble starting to grow through. And so that concludes yet another contrast experiments video. Hopefully this quick video will give you a better idea as to how contrast paints can be used for representing human flesh. As we've seen in my previous experiment videos, contrast paints can be used to create some fairly respectable results extremely quickly by using a single coat. However, if you're willing to put in a little more time into them, the results can be much more detailed and realistic. The face I tackled ended up looking very similar to some of my more traditional skin painting techniques, but was completed in a fraction of the time. For anyone looking to maintain a similar painting standard but speed up their process like myself, this is a big help. So as before, let me know if there are any techniques you would like to see me try out with contrast, and I'll do my best to cover them in some future videos. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below, and be sure to check out my Patreon page if you would like to support my channel and help me to continue making and improving on my videos. So the only thing left to say is, thanks for watching and goodbye.